Hello, everybody. Well, today was supposed to be a master class, but it looks like something has, I don't know, blocked technologically or something. So I have just decided to do it anyway, even though there's nobody here right now. I was looking forward to the person-to-person interaction, but that's all right. Let's just go with what is here today. So today's theme is bridging the gap between your body, mind, and soul. And what does that mean? That seems very vague. Well, to give just a little tip into where I'm going with this is understanding that we have three operating systems that are always running us. And look at that, running us. Right? So we have the mind, the thoughts, the stories, the patterns, the beliefs. We have the biology, the body chemistry, the habits that we have with eating and diet or exercise, lack of, right? The health of our body, and we have our soul. And our soul is actually the foundational guiding system of our being. But through centuries of humanity being disconnected from that source, we have given the power to the mind and the body instead of the soul to lead. But the soul is the leader. The body and the mind are designed to be the servants in service of the soul in this earthly creation of life. So what I want to go into here is to share some insight that might be able to help you to make sense of some things that just, haven't made sense till now because you still feel like you're looping no matter what you do, no matter what therapy you've done, no matter what courses you've done, no matter what effort you've put into bringing yourself into alignment with your gifts, with your soul, with your purpose, to change habits, to change patterns, that even with all that effort, somehow you keep landing in the same hole or the same rut or the same pattern, the same wall or invisible ceiling. And you're like, how can I still be getting here when I've done all this work? This doesn't make sense. And then what happens when we enter that zone, if we are not mindful, if we don't have the tools to recognize that is a false voice designed to undermine us, if we do not wake up to that reality, then what happens is we start going down the path of self-deprecation. What's wrong with me? I should know this. This should be easy for me. Yesterday I felt great. I felt totally aligned. And today, so what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? That tends to be the question that we go to. Not what's missing. Oh, what can I change? What don't I know yet that I need to reach out to know and learn in order to do this? No, we tend to go to what's wrong with me. There's something wrong with me. I'm flawed. And as soon as we go there, we're kind of lost. And we get pulled into this quagmire of self-doubt, of what people call imposter syndrome, which for me, imposter syndrome is just a bunch of baloney. I know what the experiences people are talking about, but all it is just simply recognizing you don't know everything you need to know yet. That's all. You're still an evolving person growing. There is no finish point of, well, here I'm done and now I'm perfect. That doesn't work. That's not even true. So imposter syndrome is basically based on the idea that there's a perfection, a perfect outcome that you're supposed to land in and stay there forever. That's what basically it's saying. But that's not it. We are living organic beings. We are designed to fail. We're designed to fall. We're designed to forget as a process of the remembering. So what I propose is Xing the perfection path, which will immediately obliterate the imposter syndrome, and look to go down the path of excellence. Because that's really what we're on. The path of excellence is all about failing and getting back up. The path of excellence is always about refining and getting even better and better and better at what we do, and better at mastering our inner worlds. But there's room for failure. There's room for error. There's room for refinement. Whereas the path of perfection, there's no room for that. It's this or it's that. Boom. And is it any wonder we get imposter syndrome when we have this kind of limited idea about how and who we're supposed to be. Like example, I do healing work with women. I've done it for years, trauma healing. Does that mean that I'm never going to have a trauma trigger? No. In the path of excellence, no, it means, okay, each new level is going to refine me deeper. Each new level is going to bring me to a new layer of knowing myself, because some traumas go deep. Some traumas are tubular traumas, using a garden metaphor. Tubular plants, there's a knotted root deep in the earth, and it just shoots up all over the place, right? And unless you get that knotted, the full piece of that tubular, even a tiny little piece left behind, it will grow. And so some of our patterns and some of our traumas and some of the aspects of ourself that we're learning to master, some of them are tubulars. And that means that if I don't get the root, then it's going to grow again. And just because it grows again doesn't mean I was a failure and removing the part that I did. It's just giving me feedback. No, there's something more. There's another piece. There's another layer. And so the path of perfection does not open up for that. It does not allow that. It says it should be done or not. You should be this or nothing at all. So again, exit. No more path of perfection, path of excellence. That is the soul path. That's where we are eternally engaged in elevating our state of being into our higher humanity, into the highest expression of the greatest good that we are and the greatest good that we have to gift the world through being who we are. Warts and all, mistakes and all, mishaps and all, misunderstandings, everything, all of that is a part of the ingredients of life. Conflict is a major ingredient in life. If we don't have conflict, nothing moves, nothing changes. Conflict is a dynamic element that puts us at a crossroads that says where we are right now, what we're doing, how we're thinking, how we're feeling, or the relationship we're in, or whatever, as it is in this moment, it's not working. There's something missing. Doesn't mean done, it's over. Gosh, forget it. Just because we're at that crossroads, it means at the crossroads of conflict. We're at the crossroads of conflict because it means there's another possible path, or maybe a few other paths forward, that when we allow ourselves to shift our perception and our awareness, when we allow ourselves to be on the path of excellence rather than the path of perfection, when we allow that, then we can engage this crossroads. And instead of it being the crossroads of conflict and it's the end, or absoluteness or perfection or whatever, we meet at an intersection of love and growth within ourselves and within our own journey and within relationships. Conflicts are there to bring us to that point because we're all here as mirrors to each other. We're all here to catalyze growth. I'm a catalyst for you and you're a catalyst for me. Sometimes we catalyze love and awesomeness, and sometimes we catalyze frustration and irritation, or depression, or sadness, or hurt, or whatever. But either way, these are all energies that are catalyzing a movement within us that is calling for change. It's calling for something new. It's calling for transformation. It's calling for alchemizing whatever it is that's keeping us stuck in conflict to reach and find the solution through the path of excellence. Because the path of excellence, it includes all the myriad of possibilities, whereas the path of perfection only has this or that. So can you feel the difference? So take a deep breath and just feel that in your body, the visceral sensation when you connect to a goal and you have the construct of perfection directing you. You're going to notice your body feels tight, your jaw is tight, you're clenching. You might hold your breath. When you're on the path of excellence, and that's where your trajectory is, you can breathe, you can take a deep breath, you can actually start to be, you can explore, you can lighten the load, you can be less serious, you can be more playful and curious. So that's my invitation. This is a big part of the gap that we have, is that in that path of perfection, we have these three operating systems that are governing us, our body, mind, our soul, right? And when we're on that path of perfection, we're usually just following the mind, not even the body, right? So there's a big breakdown in communication between the soul and the body and the mind. But also conversely, there are many spiritual practices that just focus on the spirituality and the soul, and they exclude the body and the mind. And then there's also body practices, diet and all this stuff, but they ignore the mind and the soul. So my invitation is, let's find a way to resync these three operating systems that were designed to work coherently together. That's the original design. We have interrupted the design through our patterns, through our history of trauma, of loss, of, control, manipulation, all of these things that are a part of our human history, which they have a role. It's not me saying, oh, they shouldn't have been. They are, but they are, again, a catalyst. The whole time we have that freedom to choose. How do I use the energy that's catalyzing me this way in this moment? Do I buy into the fears and the stories that are coming up right now, and then I fuel them and feed them with my attention, which makes them grow? That's the Hawaiian principle, makia. Where my attention goes, my energy flows, and that's what grows. So, am I going to give my attention there, which is going to keep me more stuck? Or am I going to wrestle that gravity, that inner gravity that wants me to stay in the sadness or the fear or the whatever that is? Because our body is so familiar with it, our body chemistry is aligned with it. So it takes effort to wrestle ourselves, to bring our focus to a, a way of thinking and perceiving that evolves us rather than contains and condenses and contracts us. Makia, where my attention goes, my energy flows, and that is the reality that will grow. It's so simple. So my question to you is, when you're feeling stuck, where are you giving your makia? Where are you giving your focus? When you're in conflict, where are you giving your focus? Are you giving your focus to reiterating in your mind, in your thinking, and with your friends and your family, all the reasons why you're justified to feel the conflict that you feel, or the pain that you feel, or the depression that you feel? Are you defending your limitations, your limited thinking, your limited awareness, your limited understanding? Or are you defending your possibilities for learning and for growing? And for humility to recognize there's something clearly I don't see here. Because if I saw everything clearly, this wouldn't be happening. There would be flow. There's a natural harmony in this universe. There are natural laws of this universe that when we walk in congruent alignment with them, even we don't have to master them perfectly, but at least we're using them as the guidepost. We're redirecting ourselves to use these universal laws, like Makia, where my attention goes, my energy flows, and that's what grows. That is a universal law that exists, even if I don't exist to perceive it, but it exists because the observer has an effect on what's being observed. And even quantum physics has shown this, even just in the molecular world. So, Makia, take a deep breath. Where do you go? And be really, really honest. I know for me, there are phases in my journey where it's like I would answer that question with what I know to be true, but there was actually a gap in my embodying of what I knew to be true. And this is what I want to address here. When what we think, say, and do are not in alignment, we are fragmented, and then our operating systems are not able to work together. They're not able to communicate together. So take a deep breath. When we bridge that gap, I'm going to be every now and then looking at some notes here because I want to make sure I get everything in here. When we bridge that gap, those gaps actually, because there's two gaps, right? Then what opens up is a whole new world of momentum and clarity and possibility that is impossible to open for us when we are in the narrowed path of perfection, which leaves no room for change, which leaves no room for deviation of the goal. And sometimes we need to get off track in order to get on track, and that is a part of the path of excellence as well. So if I'm judging myself because I have this idea, this is where I should be because this was my 5-year plan or because of this or whatever, well, I'm harming my own path. I'm blocking myself. because my maquia is going to affirm that I'm not capable and that something's wrong with me or this isn't right or I'll blame it on somebody else or the tech or whatever, right? But it's not going to be the truth. And our body, both our mind, body, and soul are created to function best when we are aligned in truth. So, what is truth? There are universal truths that they just are, and we know it in our body. That's why we have the expression, it rings true. We know it. And even as you're listening to this, there's most likely moments of like, ah, oh, right? There's something ringing true, and it's releasing you from the hold of the patterns and the constructs of thought and habit that have been keeping you stuck because these systems are not aligned with each other. So we're wanting to bridge this gap so that you can come home to your wholeness, so that you can fly, so that you can lead your life by your soul, because your soul has all the guidance. It's vaster, it's connected to the collective field of consciousness. Our mind is only, it's so finite, it can only calculate and relate to information that it has already absorbed. But there's so much more information out there than what we can even quantify in our own small little mind. So, but what happens is when we get into a mind trip that we think we already know, and that's a part of the perfection path, right? Then we shut out so many other possibilities that then blocks our progress. And it blocks us from connecting to our soul, and it also blocks us from connecting and aligning with our body. Our body is the measure of truth. We cannot lie. When we are embodied in our body, we feel the truth instantly. Our body knows. So a key element is to get into your body. Get into the body, feel it, breathe. And that is the key technique, is the breath work, which we're going to go into in a little bit. But first, I just want to anchor this understanding, right? So if we don't integrate the way we learn and heal with all the systems that are part of our being, we're never going to be able to reach the maximum potential that we have for happiness, for joy, for success, for love and relationships, because we're always going to be lacking. And that place where there is a lack of evolution, a lack of awareness, becomes like a shadow, and the patterns that exist in that shadow end up hijacking us in moments that are never right in relationship or with our own self. So that's why the path of self-knowing is so important. Know thyself, know your mind, know your body, know your soul. Know how they work together, and they're designed to work together. The soul is designed to lead. The mind and the body are here to serve the soul. The soul is the ultimate reality, the frequency that we are. This body is temporary, the mind is temporary, but there is a frequency of intelligence that is at the core and root of all creation, including ourselves, that is eternal. And so when we're living in this, temporary world with this internal spirit of soul inside of us, doesn't it make sense that the soul should be the one that leads and not the mind and not the body? Right? Because our body can hijack us with habits and dietary things, chocolate and all that stuff. Doesn't mean it's not nice to enjoy it, but if I don't have control over what I'm consuming because I have these habits that keep my biology in a certain frequency or state that keeps me stuck, that I don't want to be, but yet feels comfortable because it's familiar. If I don't interrupt those habits, if I don't start substituting a fresh juice in the morning instead of my white bread and jam, right? If I don't create that shift, then also my body will not be able to receive and follow through on guidance of my soul or even insight that comes through my mind, right? And so take a deep breath. Has a lot of information in there. So the whole goal of this masterclass is to introduce you to these thoughts. I'm not here saying, hey, I have all the answers. I'm here, hey, these are the answers that I have found that have helped me and that have helped literally every client that I've ever worked with come home to themselves in their unique way. So you can look at what I'm sharing here as like a navigational map that will help you uncover your unique navigational map of your soul, of your purpose, of your possibility, of your potentials, of your gifts to give back to this world, because we're all here to contribute. So what I'm sharing here are just tools and strategies to help you connect to that within you, because you have your answers. I don't have your answers. Nobody has your answers. But there are tools, there are ways to help you access those answers, right? So take a deep breath. What I have discovered is that as long as I have buried trauma in my body, my soul just cannot come through, because trauma keeps me in my limbic brain. And when I'm in my limbic brain, I'm in fight or flight or survival, which means I have massive amounts of cortisol and adrenaline constantly pumping in my system. When I'm living in an anxious state, when I'm living in a fearful state, when I'm living in a state of perfection, that activates our limbic system more than anything, because it's like there's this finite goal, there's this finite, reality that we're trying to reach, and it's impossible. So our body is stressed because it knows it's impossible. It's just not possible. And our biology knows this, and that's why the stress gets even worse, because it's not natural. It's not in alignment with the natural laws of evolution and growth. But when I align with the understanding of I'm on a path of excellence, I'm on a path of exploration, I'm on a path of discovery, then that is basically like the key that helps me get into those deeper parts of me where I have hidden trauma or I have nervous system activations. Then I can approach that part of me with greater love and awareness, which then gives me the capacity to help my body unravel and heal these traumas. And when I use the word healing, I use it in its original form, to restore to integrity, to restore to wholeness. That is what it really means. There is an esoteric, more etheric reality of healing as well, energetic, but I'm talking about that. And what I found is when we can understand healing in that way, then, and we practice it that way, then eventually that etheric, spiritual feeling of connection and healing, that's an automatic outcome. But first, we got to get our body on track. First, we got to recognize, create our own inner map of the moments where we notice we fall, where we fall from grace with our own self. When we split off from what we know is true, what we know we are and what we want to create, and then we fragment off with a trigger that takes us down a completely contrary path. So one of my recent video series was Master Your Triggers, Master Your Life, and I have, I think it was 12 or 14 videos going into different elements of that whole process of learning to master your triggers, to master your life. Because until I develop my mindset to a degree that when I have an emotional trigger that comes up, that I can take it and I can meet that intersection and I can turn it into an intersection of love and growth rather than destruction and pain and more sorrow and more all the other stuff that comes when we don't interrupt those triggers. When I develop my mindset enough that I can catch it before it takes me down that rabbit hole of darkness and despair and wherever, or anger or whatever expression it takes me to, that's when I'm creating safety for my biology to actually heal and unwind. I've had people make comments to me, but no, you've got to heal before you can do your mindset. But I'm going to ask you this. How can you heal your body if your mindset sucks? Sorry, but how? How can you heal trauma if you have a mindset that's so weak and doesn't have the tools that it needs to stay strong when a trigger hits and you just collapse with each trigger? It doesn't work that way. We need our mindset first. We need to develop a structured way of perceiving reality through our makia, through our focus, that helps us in those moments of trigger to alchemize those moments of trigger into self-knowing, wisdom, and new creative action forward. Take a deep breath. Because once I master my mindset, and this isn't about controlling, this is about redirecting and alchemizing. It's not control. When I understand that each trigger is an invitation for me to know me, it's an invitation for me to uncover something buried that's being activated, that's looking to heal, it's crying to heal. That's why it's triggered, that's why it's to the surface. A new experience will not trigger us to that degree in terms of an emotional trigger. Emotional trigger comes because there's a history already. Our nervous system has already been imprinted with it. And so that's why when it's so deep and so sensitive, all we have to do is just barely approach it and the trigger will go off, right? So take a deep breath. So when I master my mindset, what I'm doing is I'm creating safety for my biology to unwind, to have space, to breathe through the activation. Because what happens generally when we don't have the mindset and we just get caught in the trigger, we contract, we hold our breath, and we actually exasperate the trigger. We actually make it worse because we're holding our breath, and that's a limbic brain response. Because yes, if I need to climb up a tree to get away from a tiger, I need to hold my breath. I need all my energy to go to my extremities to get out of there. If I stop and I think, let me take a deep breath and see what tree will I go up there when that tiger's coming, I'm dinner, right? So the limbic system has its purpose in those kind of survival instances. But in terms of emotional, mental dialogue, it doesn't know the difference between a real threat. It just knows the chemistry that's activated in the body. So when I'm projecting an anxiety into the future, my body doesn't know that this is just me thinking and imagining. My body is receiving and activating the chemistry as if it's already happening. And so therefore, I get more activated. And this is how we keep ourselves in these anxiety and fear loops that they seem impossible to break out of until we understand a few of these foundational layers of knowledge and wisdom to help us navigate through it. So mindset, that's the most important thing right off the get-go. And I know there'll be spiritual people that will say, hey, no, but I'm a spiritual person. Mindset, that's just the mind. The mind is, it's just constructed stuff. Yes, absolutely. But it is a part of our reality. And I was one of the people that did that before, so we are living in this world. We are not just soul. We are also body. We are also biology. We are all of these three things. So kind of makes sense. We need to learn how to navigate all these three operating systems in us in order to live a full, fulfilling life, which we are wired to live. We're designed to live. But we have all these interruptions that have come in, trauma, loss, wrong perceptions too. A lot of the perceptions we acquire when we're a little kid, they're completely contrary to the truth. And that's a part of what keeps us stuck and gets us sick and in dis-ease, right? So coming home to the wholeness of the reality of what we are. I am a mind, I am a body, I am a soul, all of it in one. And I can say for me, I was always very spiritual my whole life, and that was the main thing that got me through, but it didn't get me all the way. And it wasn't until I started learning about trauma biology and neuroscience and understanding how the limbic brain works and the frontal cortex and understanding that because the limbic brain has been the lead brain for centuries, millions of years, it always gets the default role to react. Our frontal cortex is still very, very new. And the only way we grow it is when we interrupt those reactions that are really not based in the present moment reality. They're just in past or future. When we acknowledge that and then we bring ourselves to the frontal cortex through our breath, through our intention, through our focus, when we alchemize those triggers, that is how our frontal cortex will grow. If we are always just going off the cuff with our reactions all the time, what we're doing is we're growing our limbic brain. And pretty much I can say most of the world, their limbic brain is overdeveloped now with the constant onslaught of news, of horror, of trauma. We have generational trauma. We have an overdeveloped limbic brain. The frontal brain will not just develop on its own. It needs our effort. It needs our attention. It needs that inner work where we're going to twist that gravity that wants to keep us in the limbic brain, and we're going to forge a path to our frontal brain so that we can actually navigate our life with clarity and coherency versus the erraticness of one reaction after the other. And there's the reaction, then there's the the resolution of just, okay, unwinding, and then there's, okay, back in life until the next reaction. So this is a loop that we all go on until we learn self-mastery. Everybody. So take a deep breath. And I invite you to really take an honest inventory. What is your mindset in those moments when you're triggered? Have you mastered it? How do you keep your body in a space that it's not going to be constantly overloaded with chemistry that keeps it stressed, which then makes us even more likely to be triggered? Like, if I eat only chocolate bars all day or sugar and carbs, well, yeah, my nervous system is going to be primed and ready for the slightest activation. Whereas when I have my proteins, I have my B complex vitamins, when I exercise, when I do my breath work, then when life's challenges come at me, I can actually meet them and encounter them with wisdom and awareness and find my way through. Same with mindset. And once we master our mindset, and that helps us to master our body and our biology, helps us to heal it, create the safe space so it can unwind the trauma. We start taking care of our body more. That is when our soul has the opportunity to embody through our body and our mind. This is what life has taught me. Makes sense to me now that I have this insight. I didn't always have it. But how, if you think of it, if the soul coming from the higher frequency of consciousness and life that it is, it's a part of the spark of all that is. How could that light possibly manifest in a body that's overruled with emotional reactions, that's overruled with mental confusions and stories that aren't aligned with truth, and with a body that's malnourished and not being taken care of? I ask you, does that make sense? Do you think that's even possible? It's not. So I want to share with you a process that I developed, I guess it's already 7, 8 years ago. It's called the P.A.L process, how to be your best pal. And so P.A.L means presence. That's the first one. That's Ike. Ike in the Hawaiian principles is the capacity to be present, to see what is for what it is, without layers, without qualifying, without labels. We're just capable to see what is for what it is. A rose is a rose is a rose. Take a deep breath. That's how we land into the present moment, is the breath. As soon as we're holding our breath, you can be sure you're not in this present moment. You're either in the past, ruminating, lamenting, angry, resentful, or you're in the future, fearing, projecting, worst case scenarios. Because when we're in the moment, we breathe. That's what we're designed to do. So with presence, to be present requires us to breathe. I have a little bit of allergy, so I'm a little stuffed up there. And the breath work I invite you to explore is in for 5 and out for 5. That creates a nice, stable rhythm. I'm also trained as a heart math coach, and that's the breath that we use for that as well. So, the visual I'm going to give you here. Let's say I'm going to do 3 little sections here, just with my visual of my hands. So here is a healthy nervous system, buffer zone. There's lots of space here. Here's the hyperarousal at the top and hypoarousal at the bottom. These are normal. We will always have a little bit of hyperarousal. We'll always have a little hypoarousal. That's totally normal. We need that. That's what makes us alive. A heart monitor goes like this, right? So we're alive. We don't want a straight line. So here's a natural buffer zone of a healthy, breathing human being that has the capacity to navigate stress, has a foundational grounding in who they are and their connection to life and what they're doing. They will have a nice buoyant buffer zone. Pardon me. Now, somebody who's had trauma, someone who has perpetual stress, that buffer zone is going to shrink. And what does that mean? That means when stress hits, we will go into extreme hyperarousal or we'll go into extreme hypoarousal. There's not much of a buffer zone. And this is when we go into erratic behaviors because we don't have this buffer zone of peace, of groundedness, of integration within us. It's really about integration, right? Healing trauma is about integrating the trauma so that our nervous system can restore and regain that buoyancy. And the heart math technique is a huge, beautiful technique that helps that. And I integrate it with Ho'oponopono, the traditional Hawaiian healing. So in for 5 and out for 5. Just feel it. Even just one breath, you're going to notice your jaw, your muscles, your neck muscles, your shoulders, they're all going to be dropping. It's all going to be a little bit lighter. And you continue that breath work. This brings you in the present moment. But there's also a side thing with the breath work. So if you can imagine, your body is holding all the times that you held your breath. In fear, in terror, in sadness, in confusion, in reaction, in aggression, in violence. Your body is holding every held breath that you've ever had. That's why we are so contracted in our gut area. That's why there's so many gut issues. This is where we hold it. This is the bowl of, in Hawaii we call it the bowl of light, where we end up carrying the stones of resentment and grief and sadness of the past, which make it harder for us to embody our fullness and to breathe, right? So when you start breathing, you can anticipate that there's going to be moments where you just start crying and you're like, I don't know why I'm crying. Or you're going to have emotions rise to the surface. There might be anger, there might be sadness. Even sometimes joy gets suppressed. I remember in some of the healing sessions I had for psychosomatic bodywork, and where the person who was doing the sessions on me, when I first did it, there was a spot that he touched in my foot and I wailed and screamed and cried like crazy. And I was like, what the heck is going on? And then he shared with me, yeah, all of your emotions are stored in the neuropeptides in your body. And so when we work in certain areas where those frictions and held patterns are there, then, and you're breathing, then it's going to start moving it out of your system so you can unravel it. And I'm like, wow, teach me more. This is how I got into this work, because I myself was in such a traumatized state that I had no grounding. I was so in a deep state of psychosis that I didn't know how to be in the world anymore. And so I had some friends who helped me with this because they knew me before that happened. So there was a trauma that led to that. They knew me before that happened. So then they worked really hard to get me back. And then another time when he did it, I started bursting out into laughter, uncontrollable laughter that I was like, what the heck? How am I crying? How am I laughing so hard? And he said, it's the same thing. We sometimes suppress our laughter as well. We suppress our joy. So to know that as you start breathing, it's completely normal if you encounter emotions and feelings that you don't have an explanation for. And my invitation to you is this: let that be okay. Our mind, who's been trying to lead the way, tries to take over everything, tries to figure everything out, tries to name and label and put everything in its neat little boxes. But not everything fits in those neat little boxes, and particularly healing trauma and the psychic emotional energy that we hold and then release, it doesn't fit in those boxes. So if we try to fit it in those boxes, again, we're getting caught in that perfection path of I'm naming, labeling, and knowing. And we will suppress our own healing process, and we will suppress that which is looking to evolve through the release coming forward. So take a deep breath. If and when that happens, what you need to do is contrary to what your body wants to do. Your body wants to stop breathing. It wants to hold its breath. It wants to activate the limbic brain. It feels in danger because it's reliving or remembering or an energy is coming through. We need to breathe through that. That is the work. That is how we shift the gravity, the direction of the gravity where it's taking us is the breath. That is the power. And we have this power in us 24/7 of every day. I always tell my clients, this is your free medicine right here all the time. It's your breath. And the use of it is in those moments when you're feeling triggered, you breathe. You just keep breathing, however long it takes until it actually starts to unwind and you can start processing what's coming through with greater clarity. Sometimes insights will come in afterwards. They won't necessarily come at that moment, which is why you just have to be like your own Dolma, right? I think they're called Dolmas. You know, like birthing. You are the one that's helping yourself birth that wounded part of you into the world to heal. You need to hold space for yourself. And we can only hold space when we're present. When we're in our past or our future, we are not here. We cannot hold space for that part of us that's looking to release and be reborn and rewired. So the breath is the key for that. Take a deep breath. Manava is an element of Ike, presence. I am now. This is my only moment of power of influence in my life. Period. This is my moment of power. What I choose here, where I direct my makia, where I direct my focus and attention, I am building and I am growing. I am amplifying. So what am I amplifying? And is it serving me? Is it going to help me get where I want to be, or is it going to keep me stuck or bring me somewhere I don't want to be? Manava, I am now. This is my moment of power. And in this moment of power, I do have power to influence my past and my future. By looking at my past and saying, okay, instead of going in there and then going down the spiral, right? I look at it, I bring it into my manava, into my now. And I look at it with a different lens. I look at it the lens of what part haven't I yet seen that is calling to be seen so that I can really heal and integrate this at a deeper level. So I'm giving an action, I'm giving a purpose to my thoughts going in the past versus just blindly following them down the rabbit hole into despair or depression or wherever, or anger or whatever it takes me. Right? So, Manava, I am now. Okay, let me bring this into the moment. It's not about ignoring the past or the pain of the past or, being blind to the future. It's about, okay, let's bring it home here. The only home that we have right now is now. That's my only home. So I need to be present in this moment so that if I'm being pulled here or here, I can bring it here and I can have a conversation with myself, with it. I can investigate, I can be curious, I can explore, I can uncover things that are essential for me to be able to move forward into the next moment with greater confidence, courage, and clarity and capacity to meet the moments of life as they come and the catalysts of conflict, of challenge, which will inevitably come. It is a main ingredient in this life. But if I'm always dwelling in the past or I'm always fearing the future, there's nobody home. There's nobody home to do anything. And then that freaks our body out even more because our body knows we're not home. The breath. Breathe, deep breath. Come home. Come home to this moment. When an anxiety of the future comes in, bring it into this moment. Breathe it into this moment. So it's giving me feedback. There's something I'm afraid of. But in this moment is my only moment that I can actually do something to influence my future for the better. So what action can I take right now so that outcome doesn't happen? Or what inner resources can I build in myself right now so that if something unexpected happens, I can navigate it with, again, confidence and clarity and courage and coherency and congruency, all these beautiful C words, right? So that I can take care of myself so that I can be present even if something happens that I can't foresee. This is my moment of power in this moment. And again, the path of perfection would say, okay, I've got to do it perfectly. I can't mess up. I can't bounce back and forth. But the path of excellence is, okay, yeah, you're going to bounce back and forth. It's going to happen many times, but just realign, come back, come back. Like a beautiful brain fact that I learned many years ago that changed everything for me was that our brain, our biology is actually open for a new command every third of a second of every single second of our life. Every third of a second of every second. Do you see how much power you have to change your life? Holy cow. When I learned that, I went, man, I'm going to harness every freaking third of a second I can to keep rewiring and building a new network in my brain and my biology so that I have the mastery of my mind and my triggers and that I can embody my soul more fully. That's the purpose of this work. Take a deep breath. Every third of a second. Yeah, you're going to get knocked down sometimes. That's okay. But you know you have another third of a second you can get back up. You have another third of a second that you know your biology is actually open and ready for another command that will feed and build that new neural network that you're wanting to build to get you where you want to be, to bridge that gap. Deep breath. Presence. That is the ultimate, first, most important piece of this puzzle of bridging the gap and coming home to yourself. The next one is awareness. Deep breath. Awareness. Understanding that I cannot become aware of what's happening unless I'm present in the manava. And the awareness builds the ike, the ability to perceive without filters, without stories, without narratives, without scripts that are blocking my ability to be present in the manava and to perceive clearly in the ike. So awareness is that path of getting even more clear on where do I go? What is this? What is this belief based on? And we just sort of do that inner work of observation and self-inquiry. That's the path of awareness. Self-observation and self-inquiry, so that I can know myself more and I can understand what are the elements that trip me up when I get triggered by this certain situation. What is that rippling inside of me? Where is that going? Oh my God, that's going back to this time when I experienced rejection in the playground, as an example. And in that moment of rejection, I realized I shut down a total part of myself that's never fully lived itself again since that moment. Oh my goodness, because that is how it happens. It's not always just big, huge things that cause trauma. It can be the smallest little moment in our existence that made us feel that we were not lovable or good enough as we were, and then we shut that part of ourselves down. I remember when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a singer, and I had the courage to sing one day in class just for fun. I got laughed at and told, oh, you'll never be a singer, you're horrible, right? And all kinds of nonsense. I never sang again, not until my 20s. And then at a world healing meditation, I met this woman who brought me to this other woman who was doing a goddess workshop. I was 19 at the time. I'm 55 now, long time ago. This was before it's all the fashion that it is now. And the woman played a crystal bowl, and all of a sudden my voice opened up and I started singing. And I was like, everyone was like, what? And another friend of mine says, we got to record this. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I started singing as a part of my prayer. I didn't really share it with many people until later in life. And now I have 2 sound healing CDs. So I got my childhood dream. I am a singer. I do sound healing sessions all the time, and where I use my vocals as well as a part of it. But that shut me down until a new experience opened me up, and I was like, oh my God, I do have a good voice. The kids, what they told me, and they were lying. It was actually maybe because I did have a nice voice that they did that. So this is just an example to see the small ways we can shut down vital parts of ourselves, right? Also with art, I've overcome that one too. Also with dancing, I was way before my times doing improvised dance. I joined the talent show, and I had the Jake Isles band Flamethrower, and I had this really cool purple turquoise bodysuit and a pink scarf that was going to be my flame. And I didn't have a structured choreography. I was just letting it loose. But improvisational dance was not in back then. So I had kids laugh at me. And so I made this story up that I didn't dance anymore after that. And I went, oh, I hurt my knee in the performance, so I'm not dancing anymore. I said that for years and I believed it until I came to movement therapy for my own healing when I was 20, expressive dance. And then I was like a tomato on fire the first class. It was like it ignited my soul so much. And then I went on to study for 11 years, different ways of expressive dance. And then I ended up developing my own modality. Look at that. So these are just 2 little examples of where a simple action shut me down. And I did have a lot of other deeper traumas in my childhood too and later in life. But right now, I just want to give that example because sometimes people think that trauma is only big, huge events that shut us down, but it's not. It can be really small, seemingly on the outside, small events, but the impact is massive. So I'm going to invite you to take some deep breaths. And as you're doing this breath work, and you're going to have energy starting to move, that bowl of light is going to start to bring up some of these stones of resentment and hate and hurt and anger and lostness. And you just keep breathing and you gain awareness. Be curious about it. Again, that's a part of the path of excellence. It's curiosity. You're feeling that your mind says, I shouldn't have because of whatever. You're like, okay, I feel this. Where do I feel it? Where did it come from? And you might get an answer right away and you might not. But the whole thing is to be with yourself, with your breath, to let whatever is there to come to the surface so that your awareness can grow of yourself. The knowledge of yourself can grow. And when the knowledge of yourself can grow, then you have more resourcefulness to navigate any challenge that comes your way. And there will be challenges. And, it's like I see life like a video game. Okay, I mastered, Donkey Kong, 1 in like 2 hours of play. Okay, now I'm going to go to the next level. Oh my God, now I got to navigate. I got to learn a whole new level of tools. The ones that I learned here are helping me, but I got to learn a whole new level. I'm going to be challenged more to deepen what I learned here to master this new level, and then so on and so on. So that is the path of excellence. The path of perfection is saying this is where it goes and that's it. I'm sorry, that doesn't work. And it pains my body even when I consider, you know, feeling that or exploring that. It's just it doesn't work. But we've been kind of, taught to try to go down that path to fit in this kind of homogenized sphere of being a human being in life. And we're not. We are multidimensional. We have so many layers to us in any given moment. Like there's a word that I love, hakomi, and somebody built a whole healing modality out of it. And what hakomi means, I believe it was Aztec, is how do you stand in these many realms of your existence? Like, wow, what a question. It's honoring that we have many aspects. When I'm with my best friend, this is who comes out. When I'm in a confrontation with somebody who's, trying to dominate me, this part of me comes out. When I'm creating this part. So understanding that we have so many different aspects to who we are, and how different catalysts in the environment activate different parts of who we are. So to grow that awareness of myself, I need the presence, right? So then the L, take a deep breath, is love. Love, and I also add to that letting go. When we can bring love to everything that's coming up through our awareness, through the breath, through the movement of engaging these unconscious shadow parts of ourselves, things that are hidden in the shadow, that are at the background and the driving force of our triggers, of our emotional blackouts when we don't remember what we said when we were triggered and things like that. When we can bring love to those parts that are coming to the surface, because there is no full embodiment without doing this path. There's no way our soul can embody through us the creativity of our soul and the passion of our soul and the purpose of our soul. There's no way it can embody through us until we walk this path of presence and awareness. And with that awareness, learning to use our makia effectively. So we're growing and building what we want to grow and build. And none of this has to do with trying to not feel. It's actually about feeling. We need to feel to heal. There's no way to heal without feeling. So this is actually opening the pathway to feel, to embody, to embrace, to acknowledge, to integrate all of these little tail ends inside of us from experiences that we just never completely got through, but are still living in our body. Which brings me to one of my favorite Sanskrit sayings. It says, the elephant got through the through the door, but the tail got stuck. The elephant got through the door, but the tail got stuck. Listen to that. That is what we do. When we have a challenge, when we are traumatized, when we have loss, we move through the big stuff. We get the big stuff done. We got to keep going. We got to keep living. We got to keep paying our mortgage. We got to keep doing all the things we got to do. So that's the elephant getting through the door. But the tail getting stuck are all the little tail ends of all of these experiences that have not been completely integrated and resolved, come to resolution and healing. So this is what the P.A.L work is all about. It's about getting in touch with those tail ends, creating the space so those tail ends can come up. And as they come up and they get integrated, and we're creating a safe space in our biology that's no longer ruled by our limbic brain, but instead is directed by our frontal brain, and our limbic brain comes back into a natural balance of its original function, which is to warn us of real threats, not imagined threat. So we're wanting to balance our biology so that that full expression of our soul has an opportunity to come out, because it doesn't have that opportunity until we do this work, until that integration is there. Now, just recently, the clarity of this came to me because I've been doing this work for years. And then I joined Mastermind to try to bring all of what I've done for years in retreats into a course. And so before I went there for, it was called Launch Lab, I had 3 intensive retreats. I do one-to-one healing retreats here at my retreat center. And I had 3 really intensive retreats, 3 different people. And I decided, okay, I want to observe what's happening. What actually am I doing? What's actually going on here? And each one of them had massive breakthroughs. Each one of them left here saying, man, I can't even, to say this, that my life is transformed is an understatement, is what one of them said. And so because I was paying attention more to what I was doing rather than just doing it in the flow like I always do, I caught on to it that that's actually what's happening. I'm helping people to come home to both their body, mind, and soul, to create that integration so that they can walk forward as an integrated whole being with the tools and the capacity to navigate anything that comes their way. Even if they fall, it's fine, because we will fall. We have to know we will fall, because whenever we learn a new technique too, do you master, wood carpentry the first time you cut a piece of wood? No, you don't. So life's going to bring more situations to master those new tools. But the difference is they now have the tools and they know they can. That is the key factor. And that again is the path of excellence. The path of perfection would say, well, I've learned this, so I should do it. It's not how organic life works. It's not how soul evolution works. It's not how anything works in the natural world. So that's a key element to being able to come into balance with our body, mind, and soul, to bridge those gaps, is to drop the perfectionist game and embark on the adventure and the exploration of excellence, and letting that be a joy-filled journey, because there's growth, there's newness. Whatever has been stagnant and stuck comes into motion and becomes a new creative element to craft from, to craft our life from. And that's my invitation, to reintegrate where there's been the splits, so that you can know yourself enough, because we're always going to be knowing ourselves as long as we live, but enough, with enough of a foundation, so that you're unstoppable. It's not just a meme, I'm unstoppable, but meanwhile inside we're all fragmented and we we fall apart at the first trigger, right? No, it's like, no, I'm unstoppable. There's a force of nature in me. I am a force of nature. And now I have tools to learn to master that force of nature in me, to learn to direct it, to learn to make my vessel of my body and my mind the clearest, strongest vessel for life to work through, for my soul to work through and embody through. And when we have that, and I've seen this, I've worked with women that came to me and they literally said to me, "You're my last hope, Luana. I've been to so many counselors. I've been to so many psychologists. I've been in and out of the psych ward multiple times this year because I tried to take my life. You're my last hope." And I'm like, okay, all right, let's see what we can do. And after the first 2 hours of working with this woman, she smiled for the first time in years and she felt she had hope. And then I worked with her for many years, but already just after that first year and a half, she gained the tools to navigate herself. And then there was a period of time that she didn't contact me anymore because she had the tools, which is beautiful. And then when another situation happened, she came to do a refresher and to have some more support, but she's in charge of her life. These things don't take her over anymore. The things that used to put her into the pit of despair, or self-deprecation and self-harm, they don't even have, there's not even, I don't even think there's a volume knob inside of her anymore to have to turn down. And this is what this work is offering. This is what my goal is, to equip you, to equip anybody who comes to see me with that foundation, so that you've got this, and not just as a hyperbole, you've got this. No, you have got this. You have the tools that you need. So you're not dependent on anybody but you and your connection to yourself and life. And it doesn't mean we don't still learn new tools. I still have coaches and mentors I go through when I see something new come up and like, oh, what I'm using right now isn't quite cutting it. It's helping me, but it's not there. And then I'm willing to go and I invest in another coach, or I invest in another program, because that's what we are, the levels of life. New levels, new devils. I love that expression, right? And it's true. But what are devils? They're just things that are out of alignment with our light. That's it. We meet new places where we're out of alignment, that are a deeper, deeper layer, so that we can bring that into alignment again. So take a few deep breaths with that. It's a lot of information. So when you practice the P.A.L process, what that actually is, as a bridge, you can narrow it down to, well, there's the presence, the awareness, and the love. And what that leads to is regulation, integration, and then soul leadership. That is the outcome of practicing the P.A.L process. Take a deep breath. You learn to pause inside the triggers rather than just go off the deep end. You learn to harness that gap between stimulus and reaction. You learn to land in that moment of choice, of presence, to gather awareness and to love yourself through that moment by continuing to breathe and by assuring yourself, this is just a process. This is just temporary. I'm at an intersection of love and growth and it feels uncomfortable. Yes. But I have my breath. I have my presence. I have my soul. I have the whole universe that wants me to grow and thrive. And when I take one step towards it, the universe brings me 10 steps further. And I've witnessed this to be true. The grace of God, grace of good, however way you relate to that force of intelligence. God for me is a beautiful word. I relate to it. Some people will want spirit, some prime mover, some Gaia, Mother Earth. The name is really just a connector point, like an antenna that connects us. The name is really quite irrelevant as long as it brings us into that connection. So whatever name you use, maybe it's just Mother Nature. Perfect. As long as you find what is it that connects you to that greater force inside of you and around you that is always there. It is a life-affirming force, and destruction is a part of creation. It's a life-affirming force to let you build, to let you grow, so you can bring your magic to the world that you're here to bring the magic in all the big and little ways, from smiling at somebody at the supermarket that's maybe had a bad day and you lit them up because you showed kindness, to someone you're working on in with a project that you're doing, or whatever it is that life brings you to. We have millions of moments of purpose every day. How we show up is our purpose. Do I show up with love? Do I show up with kindness? Do I show up with willingness to acknowledge I don't know all there is to know and I don't know what I don't know? Because that's what makes us humble and open and receptive to keep learning and growing. And those are the qualities of the path of excellence. How am I showing up? That is my purpose. Any bigger purpose, that will find its natural evolution. But my essential purpose is, how am I showing up to this moment? Who am I? What am I contributing to the collective field of life in this moment? Where's my makia going? Because that's what I'm contributing. Wherever my makia, my attention, my focus is going, that is what I'm rippling into the field of life, the field of collective humanity. So this is a big journey. Ho'oponopono is all about 100% accountability. This brings us to Ho'oponopono. Everything that comes into my world is in relationship with me somehow, and I have a part in helping it to correct itself by doing Ho'oponopono. Breathing in. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Those are not just words, and we're not appealing to the person or the situation itself. We're appealing to the divinity behind it. The divinity that's brought this conflict into our view, into our field, with the purpose of owning whatever our part is in it, knowingly or unknowingly, and breathing and imploring the divinity, please take care of this. Please help bring this to its highest evolution. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. That is the teaching of Ho'oponopono. And even if you don't, I just like to suggest, even if you don't have a word for God and you don't even have a sense of that, but Ho'oponopono can be your antenna. Because Ho'oponopono is basically saying, I'm choosing a path that's higher, that has more truth to it, even if I don't see it right now. I know there's a bigger truth here. I know there's a bigger insight and awareness here. And I acknowledge I don't see it, but I'm willing to be open to allow that to be true and to offer my Ho'oponopono, whatever I have a part in this, knowingly or unknowingly, be it just by frequency, could be ancestry, could be anything. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. The moment I choose to do Ho'oponopono, I'm communicating to life, to my soul, to the universe. I am not going to buy into the duality. I'm not going to let the duality tear me apart. I know there's more. Because if I'm triggered, that triggering comes from narrowing. And when we're narrowing, we're missing out on a lot of the pieces of information that are needed to understand and comprehend and find a good solution. So take a deep breath with that. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. When I allow myself and I choose to say those words and connect to those words, I am already connecting to that infinite field of intelligence, of goodness and love, even if I don't have a name for it. And I'm just saying, I'm choosing a higher path. I don't see it. I don't know it. I feel what I feel, but I know that that's not complete. I think what I think, but I know it's not complete. So I'm creating a space, a third of a second of every second. In those moments, I choose the Ho'oponopono. I'm creating a space to perceive in a new way, to receive a new download in my own consciousness, in my own awareness, or an upload from my own heart. And that in itself breaks the trance of the trigger. Because that's what it is. Triggers put us in a trance and we believe everything we're thinking. And we're not supposed to believe everything we think. We're supposed to really investigate everything we think, because it doesn't matter what thought I have. If I'm only using my reasoning, I can find reasons, yay or nay, for absolutely every single thought I can create in planet Earth. That's why we need the deeper body of wisdom. We need to be embodied in our body. We need to have the connection between body, mind, and soul. We need our mind and body to be serving our soul so that we can feel the ring of truth in each moment versus the stories and scripts of our reactions and our reasonings. Reasoning, it's a great tool. We need a mind to be able to interpret the input of our soul and our felt sense of our body. But the mind is incapable of figuring out the infinite. It's just not possible. It can only use the tools it's gained. Same with AI. It can only use the information that it's been inputted with to solve any problem. But if there's information that's not been inputted, it will never be able to access it unless somebody programs it in, or for us, unless we're open to see that there might be something we don't see. So take a deep breath. When you breathe, you're here in the moment. And this is your power. When you choose Ho'oponopono, when you choose your breath, when you choose presence, you are opening the pathways of possibilities that you can't even conceive of when you're in a triggered state or when you're locked in your limbic brain. This is what I'm offering here, is a path so that you can forge your own way in life that's aligned, body, mind, and soul. And when you do that, that is when the magic happens. That's when providence moves. That's when serendipities, based on the law of attraction, law of resonance, law of harmonics, law of compensation, all of these laws, they start being able to flow and work through you because you've created the environment that matches the frequency of those possibilities. Take a deep breath in. And it's important to remember the goal isn't to never be triggered. It's to master how we meet the triggers. And when we master our mind, which helps us master our biology, we're creating a sacred space for our soul to embody. And that embodiment brings through the frequencies of good, of love, of grace. So take a deep breath again. I'm just going to take a peek here. Hey. Every moment you choose presence and awareness and love over a reaction. Every moment you choose Ho'oponopono, you're reclaiming your life from the survival limbic brain. You're helping your biology to balance. You're helping your frontal cortex to grow because, again, it won't grow on its own. It needs us to put that effort. Hi, my little kitty cat. For our frontal brain to grow, we need to exert that effort Effort, for me, is an expression of love. Whatever we put effort towards, that is the loudest language of love beyond any word. So when I put effort to control myself in those moments when there's a trigger, to commit, I don't want to destroy myself or somebody else. I want to find answers and clarity. So what is my action? I need to breathe. I need to be present. I need to cultivate awareness of myself. And I need to bring love to the table, because love is the ultimate medicine. Breathe. I just feel how that sits in you. Now just imagine right now in this moment, I'm going to invite you to bring up whatever your top of mind issue is or challenge. Be with a person, be with yourself, be with a circumstance. And I can invite you to just bring that up and just watch what happens to your body as soon as you do. You're going to notice it's going to contract. And just take some deep breaths into that space and become the observer. Be present, not the reactor, like watching leaves on a stream versus grabbing the leaves from the stream. Just watching, observing, breathing. And whoever that situation is, I'm going to invite you to just appeal to the divinity in that situation, relationship, or circumstance. And I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I love that divine source of God, grace, good in you that I know exists in this situation in you, even if the surface of things is loud, noisy, messy. I know that that is there. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the ways I've knowingly and unknowingly contributed to creating this dynamic and this pattern, not just in our life, but in the collective. Please forgive me for the ways that I've knowingly and unknowingly perpetuated it, perhaps through my own thinking, through my own brooding, through my own criticisms, my own judgments, my own ignorance. I'm sorry for the ways I've knowingly and knowingly fed it, kept it growing through my makia in a way that's not useful or effective to bring evolution and growth and healing. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you to divinity, to that force, knowing that when we ask, we receive. This is a universal law that existed in this universe long before Jesus, but Jesus brought some of these beautiful universal laws to us. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And just keep breathing. And whenever you feel your body wanting to contract, or your mind saying, I know, but I don't love that person, or I hate that, or whatever, just keep breathing and just keep doing it. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Because in that moment when you're doing that, again, you're choosing to see and acknowledge that there's more than what you see and that you are a part of everything. How you react is a part of everything, let alone whatever connections you have to that you're unaware of right now before it happened. So how you react, how you respond is important, and will either perpetuate the struggle or it will release you from the struggle. So the P.A.L system and the Ho'oponopono system I've been teaching for so long. And for me, in my experience, yes, it's released me so much and helped me correct, heal, and even build relationships where I thought it was no longer possible. And it helps me day to day, moment to moment. Looking at the news is not easy, for example. I have to really do lots of Ho'oponopono recently, right? But what I'm doing with that is I'm keeping circulation, I'm circulating life force, I'm moving the energy versus getting stuck and stagnant, where then my thinking becomes stinking and it's no good anymore. So these are the actions we need to take. We need to put that effort to lovingly bring ourselves out of our limbic brain, actively engage our frontal cortex to develop more pathways of perception and thought and possibilities that I can go to when I'm triggered so that I can take care of myself. I can take care of my biology. So my biology is no longer being overrun with cortisol and adrenaline, that I can actually start feeling some of the happy healing hormones moving through me. And then once that happens, then my body softens, and then my mind softens, and then my soul can enter. Then I have the inner quietness and stillness and groundedness that I can actually listen to what I'm being guided to do, to feel, to create, to give, to embody. That is soul based, not trauma based, and not persona personality based, the persona personality that was built to survive the trauma. Coming home to our whole natural self. That's the journey. And I do have a free guide that, for those of you watching this, if you would like it, it's called Your Soul Knows the Way. And I recently launched it, and it's been creating some pretty good ripples, even more so than I ever imagined. And there's other ways that you could work with me too. I have a soul reboot 3-session plan, and that just sort of lets you dip your toes in, but with a quantum shift. There's definitely be a shift in how you navigate your inner world with those 3 sessions. And then there's larger packages, 3, 6, and 12, that are for support along the journey and accountability, and for deepening the capacity to embody your whole self and to navigate triggers and to hold space for the healing of those things that might come up that just not able to hold that space for yourself yet. And then there's going to be more webinars and things like that. And yes, I have a new course, an online course that I'll be launching on the 28th of November. It's called Rise Up, and I think it's 16 video course, self-paced course, but it also includes some live Q&As and a monthly healing for the first session for the founders. That's how it's going to be. And I will be posting more about that. But this was really just about wanting to share information. And of course, I want you to know that there's more that you can do with me if you like it. But that's just if it resonates. I'm not here to do a hard sell of anything. I'm just here to share, this is what I have, this is what I do. And if it resonates and you would like that support and you think that it can serve you in your journey, then here it is. It exists, and we can have a conversation about that another time. So I think for now, that feels complete. I believe I've covered even more than what I imagined I would do, which is great. And I'm just gonna let me look through my notes here just for a second, and I think we're good. Yep, we're good. And so just to understand that when you're feeling stuck, it's not necessarily about strategy. You need a new strategy. It's often that you need to connect to your soul, because anything you create in your life, that inspiration came through your soul. So your soul knows the way. But if our mind is hijacking that and trying to take the lead on what the soul guidance has given us as our passion, as our gift, as our creation in the world, well, then the mind doesn't have, again, the capacity to completely understand that. So this is why we need to come back to our soul. So instead of, when you feel stuck, you're like, why, and shouldn't be, and what's wrong with me, just say, okay, where do I need to connect to my soul? Do the breath work. Where have I stepped out of alignment? Where have I stepped too deeply into my mind, that my mind is now sort of making so much noise that I can't hear my soul? And that's how it works. Moment by moment by moment, we meet the moments the best way we can. And then again, harness each third of a second the best way we can, and know that there's always another third of a second. And as long as we are committed to that path of excellence, we will always grow. We will always have new serendipities open. We'll have new connections. The right phrase will come through our Facebook feed at the right moment, or the right training, or, whatever. Once we are in that alignment, then those universal laws, they just work automatically. And that's why we need to bring ourselves into soul alignment. Otherwise, we're bumping up against everything, and we're wrestling life instead of flowing with it. But to flow with it, we have to do that inner work first. It's not just going to happen on its own. That's our work. And with that, bless you, love you. Thank you for watching this. And Yes, I'm excited because even though, the tech issues and there was nobody's logged into this masterclass, I still did it and I'm happy to do it. And it was quite a fun experience as I'm learning to also show up for these live webinars. And so whoever's watching this, thank you so much. And I love your feedback too. If you want to give me some feedback for future webinars. God bless you. God bless you. And that's it for now. Bye.